What's up everyone, Jimmy here from Base Game Reviews, and today we're checking out FromSoftware's surprise introduction into the multiplayer live service co-op world with their entry, Elden Ring Nightreign. Does this game live up to the insanely high bar that the 2022 masterpiece Elden Ring has set? Or is this just a giant copy pasta asset flip from a lazy FromSoftware? Let's find out in our review of Elden Ring Nightreign. How I played Elden Ring Nightreign on all available platforms. I played on PC via Steam on my R7 7800 X3D RTX 3080 gaming PC. Then I played on PS5 via the Digital Deluxe Edition, which includes both the PS5 and the PS4 versions of the game, and I even purchased the Xbox One version of the game to play on my Xbox One S. I want to start off by setting an expectation for this review. I am a complete FromSoftware and Hidetaka Miyazaki glazer full-time. I would off Miyazaki me to completion in a heartbeat if it meant we get the next FromSoft title out faster.
God damn!
I have been a fan since 2015 when Bloodborne completely took over my life. I have played every Miyazaki era FromSoftware release and have probably put at least 300 hours into each game on average. Most people ask me if I enjoy a lot of the Souls-likes that have released in recent years, and my answer is always no! None of them have come even close to FromSoftware's legacy in the genre they created. A few come close to being decent. Lies of P and Black Myth Wukong come to mind, but they still don't hold a candle to FromSoftware's worst title in the series, Dark Souls 2. Fight me on it. So keep all that in mind before we continue with this review. Story, 16 out of 20. Elden Ring Nightreign has a great cinematic intro, which we FromSoftware fans are not used to, giving you a quick glimpse of Limveld and how the night mechanic works. You're introduced to the new minor alt and major alt abilities, along with running, vaulting, and climbing. You walk in thinking, I don't need a tutorial, I'm a Elden Lord. And you'll be quickly humbled when you fight Margit the Fellowman again. He's much more nimble and has new attacks, and will dunk on you without hesitation. Regardless of your outcome, you're taken into Nightreign's version of the Round Table Hold, your main hub. In true FromSoftware fashion, cutscenes are sparse but spectacular, leaving you with more questions than answers. I wish the launch story trailer, like previous Elden Ring trailers, had been included as a cutscene. But oh well. Completing each Nightfarer's questlines rewards you with amazing, sometimes shocking cutscenes that stick with you. Although I really enjoyed Wilder's story arc and completing his remembrances, which unlocks a secret ending, if you only do one character's remembrances, it should be the Revenant. Her story is by far the most unsettling and brings back the horror vibes of Bloodborne. Elden Ring Nightreign exists in the same universe as Elden Ring, and even Dark Souls to an extent. But it's neither a prequel nor a sequel. It stands on its own, and I personally love that. I viewed this game as like a greatest hits multiplayer experiment, and the lore felt like a bonus treat. It made me laugh hearing other creators say things like, I need to know the lore behind why I'm fighting these characters again. Shut the f up. Sometimes it's really just as simple as, wouldn't it be cool to fight the Nameless King again? Hell yes. Take my money. The story is satisfying from start to finish and leaves room for sequels. And as of writing this, Nightreign has sold 5 million copies, which is insane. Your squad is chasing the Night Lord, who wants to plunge the lands into permanent night. And each Nightfarer has their own personal reason to stop them. It's simple but effective. And if you want to go deeper, just watch VatiVidia's 1-hour video on the game story. I didn't need that, although I did watch the video and it is great. All I needed to know was that the Dancer of the Boreal Valley needed to be stomped out again. And I was there, baby. Graphics, 11 out of 15. The Nightfarers look incredible. Wilder, who's the cover hero, and the mysterious character we all thought was the DS3 Firekeeper, turns out it was the Duchess. All 8 Nightfarers have unique designs harried by FromSoftware's god-tier art direction, even on their aging engine. I thought they would just make generic starting class characters for Nightreign. Nope! There's a Birdman. Absolute peak design, Miyazaki. The maps feel very Limgrave, which is slightly disappointing. I expected multiple new maps, but we mostly revisit the familiar environment of Elden Ring starting area. But in this case, it's called Limveld instead of Limgrave.
I've heard that one before. But don't worry, need thou not be afraid, for we can turn a humdrum, forgettable name like Nebuchadnezzar into something magical like this. Nebuchadnezzar.
Elden Ring Nightreign has these shifting earth events that do mix up portions of the map with 4 possible events: the crater, the mountain, rotted woods, and Noclateo. If I were to pick a favorite, it's split between the crater, where you can descend to the bottom for a legendary weapon upgrade, or Noclateo, which offers weapon duplication and a free revival if you beat Estelle at the very end. The mountain and rotted woods are easily my least favorites, as their powers aren't as good, and I find their environment effects to be kinda boring. Special effects. It's Elden Ring, but cranked to 11. Weapon effects and Ashes of War look incredible, ultimate abilities are flashy as hell, and I love how Spirit Springs now launch your character like a fucking missile 1,000 feet in the air. Going back to base game where there's full fall damage just feels wrong. After playing Nightreign, all of the final Night Lords have some mega aura farming attacks they can do, which just elevates this game to such a height even with its aging visuals. Audio. 14 out of 15. Ambience. Dropping into Limveld with your squad, you're instantly greeted with familiar sounds of Limgrave. Wind in the trees, distant wildlife, faint echoes of a battle. It's a perfect nod to the base game and immediately immerses you. The OST is fantastic, almost reaching Elden Ring and Shadow of the Erdtree levels. The main theme is even a callback to the original Elden Ring theme. Boss music. Top tier, as always. I laughed when one of my friends literally said mid-fight, "This boss is so majestic." He was right. The fights are cinematic and intense, and the music elevates them. All of the boss tracks in Nightreign are super unique and are all masterpieces in their own way. The boss track for the Libra fight still gives me diarrhea at the thought of how stressful that fight can be. But if I was to pick a favorite, surprisingly, it would be the track for Noster Wisdom of Night. Super majestic, and this was the boss fight that my friend actually called out. This fight is majestic. As funny as that was, I 100% agree with him. Sound design. It's a FromSoftware game, so everything is amazing. They only get the best voice actors, even when it's a tiny nothing role. All of the sound effects of weapons and enemies are top notch. Playing this game with headphones as I was queuing up with friends, I loved how much spatial awareness is in the game. The sound design and mixing is on the level of a Call of Duty who has been making multiplayer games for 20 plus years. Also, in Nightreign, each Night Lord has its own weakness to certain affinities, and when you use a weapon that has that affinity, the sound it makes when you hit the boss is super satisfying. It's like a powerful thwack, and it just feels so good when you're playing because you know you're doing some hefty damage. Performance, 9 out of 10. Frame rate. Like I mentioned earlier, I have tested Nightreign on every single platform. I was let down that they did not include a high frame rate option to 120 FPS like they did with Armored Core, since this is a multiplayer game. The game caps out at 60 FPS, which is standard for FromSoftware games, but this was disappointing for 2025. On consoles, you only have 2 standard options, performance or quality, but I would never recommend anyone play this game on quality mode and be capped at 30 FPS in a high-paced game like this. On any decent PC, you should be able to get a consistent performance at 60 FPS. I found the PS5 struggled to keep a consistent 60 FPS and would have occasional dips to the mid 50s or even high 40s. This happens on the PS5 Pro as well, due to the CPU limitations. You can play the PS4 version of the game on PS5 and you will be at a locked 60 FPS, but there are major drawbacks to this version. The draw distance of the game is massively reduced, so you'll be running into an area and the enemy would appear appear right in front of you all of a sudden. And this also lowers texture resolution, and details do stand out a bit when you have played the other versions. Also, the PS4 version had a weird input delay. You would run up to an item or a site of grace and you would not get the button prompt for a few seconds instead of instantly. So hopefully that gets fixed in a future update. I even tried playing the Xbox One version of Nightreign as a way to challenge myself and my friends. And I have to say, Nightreign should not be available on these previous gen consoles. The experience is tremendously poor as the frame rate struggles to keep in the upper 20s and the textures are just very low quality, and the enemy spawn is even worse than when you play the PS4 version on a PS5. There was an instance where I got stuck inside the geometry of an enemy because it loaded after I was there. Stability. I'm genuinely shocked at how this is FromSoftware's first ever multiplayer focused game, and it just works. Literally, the game launched with almost no issues. The core gameplay mechanic is fun and addictive. There were no major bugs or glitches. Every once in a while when you killed a field boss, an item didn't drop. But I blame that on my friend not paying his internet bill. Shout out to Baldante. FromSoftware could have made millions of dollars doing what other multiplayer studios do and charge extra for things like character skins, or maybe make some of the in-game relics be purchasable. Nope. FromSoftware in their Giga Chad ways was just like, nah, just play the game, homie, and you can earn all that stuff for free. Based. Gameplay, 36 out of 40. It's Elden Ring with a twist. I loved how they changed up the controls to fit the faster playstyle, and now I find them more fluent than the base game. I hate to admit it, but I also find it weird now holding circle or B to run on the original Elden Ring. You would think things would feel broken moving the game speed up this much, but the combat and general movement feels better than ever. Mechanics. I love the new mechanics in Nightreign. The speed at which your character moves is a complete game changer. At first, you have to get used to just how fast you move, and you'll overrun your target and miss a ton of times. Nerd moment, it reminded me when Zex from Gundam Wing had to get used to driving the Tallgeese suit. The different Nightfarers have very diverse abilities, and some work really well with others. If you have a tight group of people to play with, it is almost like conducting an orchestra with the different abilities. But if you don't have a group that is working well together, it can be a massive travesty. Nightreign has a new mechanic called relics, and they're very reminiscent of Carol runes from Bloodborne. They're permanent buffs that you can add to your character, and you can earn these relics from completing runs in the game. There are some relics that you can buy at different shops, or earn from doing a remembrance quest, or defeating the enhanced versions of the Night Lords. Some of these relics are super badass and OP, and most are complete garbage and not worth keeping. One bit of criticism I have for the relics is I hate that they're color coded. So they are either red, green, blue, or yellow, and you have to equip different vessels for your character's relics, which are 3 combinations of these colors. I don't see the need for having different color relics and wish you could just have any combination you wanted. Tell me in the comments if you agree with this. Pacing. Elden Ring Nightreign is so fast paced that it will definitely, and has, turned off a lot of old school FromSoftware fans. This game is not about exploring or taking a moment to enjoy the scenery. This game is about making split-second decisions, and I love it. This game is all about flexing your Souls game skills in short 45-minute chunks. The game splits each session into 3 nights. Day 1 and day 2 take about 15 minutes each as the map gradually closes in after each 5-minute increment, finally closing in on the final night boss fight. My biggest complaint with the base Elden Ring is that it's such a big game, and whenever I replay it, I always get to about Radon, and I'm already kind of fatigued with how far each section of the game is from each other. In Nightreign, it's a perfect solution for me, because if I want my Elden Ring fix and I've only got about 45 minutes, boom, I can just play a round of Nightreign. This is exactly what I was looking for. UI, UE. Nightreign adds a few new mechanics with the map and how you can mark your next objective. I wish you could have numbered markers like you do in the base Elden Ring, so you could show your team where you're planning for them to go. I still love how minimal FromSoftware keeps their UI and menus. It's still a long time joke as to imagine, what if a studio like EA or Ubisoft made this game? How much crap would be on your screen? FromSoft, it's just the essentials. There are some small announcement text when the night is closing in, or if there's a world event, but other than that, it's just the normal Elden Ring UI that you're used to. You know what they say? If it ain't broke, boss quality. All of the newly released Night Lords are amazing. There is a little bit of everything amongst the 8 bosses in the game. I have seen a lot of people complain because the first 2 days you just fight reused bosses from Elden Ring and some of the Dark Souls games. But I'm on the other side for this. I think it is awesome. Getting to rematch the Nameless King or Smelter Demon with your fastest Nightfare is so much fun. It's also fun to see which of your group has actually played the other games and learn the boss attack patterns. Again, I treat this game like a FromSoftware greatest hits, and there is still DLC that is yet to release, so I'm looking forward to the plethora of bosses they can add from previous titles. And FromSoftware has been releasing enhanced versions of the 8 bosses, which adds a 3rd phase to the previous boss fights and enhances them to make them harder for players who are looking for additional challenges. These bosses are no throwaway bosses either. They're all pretty much peak. Most players have probably been filtered from Libra or even the very first Night Lord Gladius. The final boss of the game is the biggest aura farmer of them all. It is a truly cinematic fight and makes you feel like you're fighting the player character from Elden Ring. This game is definitely not just copy pasta from the other titles. Enemy variety. The basic mobs are all from the base Elden Ring, which can be kind of disappointing, but to be honest, when you start getting smart with your runs, they all end up just being fodder that are mostly temporary obstacles than enemies that you fight. So I'm perfectly fine with them being the basic Godric soldiers and dogs and a few other base level enemies. Gameplay variety. If you don't like Elden Ring combat, then you won't like Nightreign, and you won't think there is any gameplay variety. But I'm giving this game a high score here because you can literally replay the same Night Lord run and have different experiences. You can replay as different Nightfarers who play completely different and do challenge runs. This game is just so addictive with its gameplay loop. Replayability. Let's put it this way. I started this game on PC and got the 100% achievement on Steam. Then I moved to the PS5 version and got the Platinum trophy there, and then I had to get the Platinum for the PS4 version that comes with buying the Digital Deluxe Edition. Then I even purchased the Xbox version of the game so I can 100% it there. I have dumped 250 plus hours in this game, and it is literally all I think about. Any Souls lover will love Nightreign if you have friends to play with. I can totally and completely understand the low reviews for this game if you don't have friends who at minimum are semi-competent Souls players to play Nightreign with. If you play this game solo or with randoms you can't communicate with, this game becomes pure garbage. But when you have a tight group of 3 and now 2 with the new duos feature, it feels so good when you are fighting a boss and one of your friends pulls a clutch ultimate or gets the final hit using a super dumb attack. This game is all about the multiplayer experience. Yes, you can play it solo and offline, but the experience quickly drops to like a 5 out of 10 or lower. Who would have known that FromSoftware knew their audience's biggest weakness? Having friends. Burn! Bonus, 0 out of 3. FromSoftware has never really added good accessibility options, and you know what? I'm okay with that, but it would have been nice to see some colorblind options or some advanced audio settings. Overall, 86 out of 100. Great. Elden Ring Nightreign is my surprise game of 2025. As a full-time FromSoftware glazer, I knew I would like this game, but the multiplayer aspect did have me worried. I have never enjoyed the PvP scene in their previous games, and I assumed I would play this game solo and finish the campaign and maybe get like 20-ish hours out of it and move on. I was wrong. This has become the most addicting game for me in years, and it scratches all of the itches I crave for FromSoftware games with its condensed 45-minute sessions. I think Nightreign was a slam dunk for FromSoftware, testing out a new director, Junya Ishizaki, and letting him try something new while playing it safe and responsible by using a huge well of assets the studio already owned with their previous titles. This game at no point felt like an asset flip. It felt like a greatest hits album that does nothing but rock your face off with each track. As of writing this review, Nightreign has sold over 5 million copies. This game has completely exceeded the expectations and should probably win Action Game of the Year. FromSoftware, you had my curiosity with Nightreign, but now you have my attention, and I am 100% looking forward to the Dustbloods.